Good evening and welcome to the second in a series of live debates over the next several weeks here on PLG TV 13. I'm Matthew Fogel, along with the editor of the Kentucky Standard, Forrest Berkshire, and Kentucky Standard reporter Randy Patrick. We're live from the Nelson County Civic Center on South 3rd Street in Bardstown in front of a fantastic audience. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our debates over the next several weeks consist of the city, county, and state races that are contested in Nelson County for the general election coming up on Tuesday, November the 4th. Last night, we featured the candidates running for Bardstown City Council. Tonight, it's a daily double, or an evening double, if you will. During the first hour, we'll have the candidates for the Bardstown Mayor, and then we'll take a small break and come back with candidates for Nelson County Judge Executive. Right now, join me in welcoming to the stage the candidates for Bardstown Mayor, Bill Shekels and John Royalty. Thank you, Mayor Shekels and Mr. Royalty, for being here with us tonight. Tonight's debate will consist of 2 minutes from each candidate for opening statements, then questions from our panel for 3-minute responses from each candidate, and then closing remarks from each candidate as well. Rebuttals will be allowed tonight and will allow up to 1 minute's rebuttal per candidate on each question asked by the panel. One of my jobs is to be the timekeeper, and I will do my best to keep it moving. We have designated the order of the speaking tonight based on when they filed, and the first to file for the office was Bill Shekels, so he will give his opening statement now.
Thank you, Matthew, and your local media for hosting these fine debates. We really appreciate it in trying to keep our local constituency informed on the issues of the day. Of course, as most of you know, my name is Bill Shekels, and I've been your mayor for the last 4 years. I grew up here, lived majority of my life here in Bardstown. I married my wife of 33 plus years, Linda Napier from Owensboro, and brought her back to our most beautiful small town. I've also been the sales leader at Conway Heaton also for the past 28 years before taking on this position as mayor. I've been actively involved in a lot of civic events. There's a lot of civic organizations here in the community. I'm not going to labor on those, but I decided to run again this year because we've got quite a few issues on the burner as far as bringing in recruiting new industry to our community, to bring in more jobs, to increase our tax base. I've also continued to run because we've got a great working relationship with our other local officials here, our county judge, our magistrates, our council. We're on the verge of bringing major industry into our community. We have a good working team that is working very strong together, and to break up that consistency would be a detriment, I think, to the citizens of this community. So that's the reason I'm running again. My record pretty much speaks for itself. We've got the city in great shape. Over the past 4 years, having to make some tough decisions on doing that, but with the help of the city council and their cooperation, we've got the city of Bardstown in a very good position to challenge ourselves for the next 4 years, and as far as bringing industry and opportunities to the city.
All right, and now opening statements from John Royalty.
Thank you, Matthew. Good evening, and thanks to PLG 13 and the Kentucky Standard for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is John Royalty. I am presently sitting on the Bardstown City Council, and I'm running for the mayor of Bardstown. I'm a long-life resident of the city of Bardstown. I have 20 years plus of government service. The last 12 years I've been representing my constituents in the position of the city council, and it's given me the opportunity to learn, to gain knowledge, and the inner works of the inner cities. I am here tonight to apply for the job for mayor for the city of Bardstown. And the mayor, in my opinion, is the eyes and the ears and the voice of the residents of this community along with our city council. It's just not just the mayor, it is the city council also. We, considering myself as the next mayor and the city council, will focus on issues that are vital for the growth and the development of this city. As I know, tonight we have time limits, and I want to touch on a few issues that come to mind. At first, I will continue to develop and update the infrastructure, and everyone talks about the water situation. That has been a topic for over 20 years, just like the sewer system had been a topic for 20 years until we finally did something about it. So that is an issue that is going to be a topic tonight, and it's not an issue that we can wait on. Third, I will continue to maintain and improve the quality of life for the residents of Bardstown, and I pledge to be a full-time mayor. Full-time. I will be in that captain's chair from daylight to dark if necessary. I will give access to the city hall, to have them have access to the council, to talk to the council freely, and have access to the city hall and to talk to me. The city council members and I will work together as partners to create, develop, maintain programs that will keep this community moving forward, and I'm asking you to give me the opportunity to serve this community again. As of January 2nd, I will roll up my sleeves and I will begin to work that day. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to the questions now, and we'll have 3 minutes from each candidates on the answers. And for this first question, we'll go to Kentucky Standard Editor Forrest Berkshire.
This first question is for Mr. Royalty and concerns an issue that was raised 4 years ago in the last mayor's race. Mayor Shekels will have a chance to follow up if he desires. Mr. Royalty, you were fired from the police department in 1998 for violating the city's policy concerning the use of deadly force. You sued the city, claiming you were unlawfully fired. That suit was dismissed in circuit court, and you appealed the decision. From our reporting, we understand the appeals process was exhausted in April of 2012, and the firing was found to be justified. Can you please elaborate whether you believe your dismissal from the police force reflects on your qualifications to serve as mayor? Would that experience affect hiring and firing decisions you might have to face as mayor?
Absolutely not. No, it would not affect anything. What was done to me, whether I agree with it or not, right now it's a mute issue. It's been over for 5 years. It's not an issue anymore.
All right, Bill Shekels, any comment?
Well, what Councilman Royalty said is true. He was dismissed from the city in 1998 for the reasons you just stated. This appeal process went on for quite some time. It was finally dismissed, and its final appeal in April of 2012. Not like you said in his previous run for mayor. But it's done, it's behind us, and there's nothing else to dwell on.
All right, we'll have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes for the answer on this next question. We'll go to Kentucky Standard reporter Randy Patrick.
This question is for Mayor Shekels, but Mr. Royalty, you may follow up if you want to. Mayor, your leadership style has been called into question by some of the city councilmen. They've said that you don't share enough information with them, and that you try to cut them out of decisions. As a former city councilman yourself, do you understand where their frustrations are coming from? Do you feel that any of this is warranted? And looking back over the last 4 years, can you think of any instances where your decision-making process could have been more inclusive?
You haven't heard much about the ability for me to work with the council, except for the last 6 months or so. And of course, it's election year, and politics come into play on those terms. I've worked with the council. I've kept them well informed. If there was any issues that they need to be addressed, they were well informed on that. If there was any issues that they needed to bring before me from some of their constituents, all they had to do was pick up the phone, give me a call, send me an email. I challenge any of the council people that if there's any issues that pertain to the city that needs to be addressed, that if we haven't addressed them, then we're in the process of addressing them. And all the decisions that we made in the last 4 years that has continually moved our city forward has been with the cooperation of the city council. It's not something that the mayor can do himself. All the major decisions, all the contracts are entered into, all the all the budget processes that have come into play that have put our city in the position that it is right now was with the cooperation of the city council. All the other commotion about the mayor not being able to work with the council, or the council not being able to work with the mayor, the council not being informed, that's just political rhetoric. It's a political season, and that's what it's all about. We couldn't have done what we've done in the past 4 years and kept our city in the shape it is in the past 4 years without the support and cooperation of the city council.
All right, Mr. Royalty.
Well, I would have to completely disagree with that. With having other conversations with other council members, as I stated before, we felt like mushrooms. We've been kept in the dark a biggest part of the time. And about not working with us is that one thing in the mayor's position has to remember, it is a council's meeting and it's not the mayor's meeting. And just several instances, one when the public wants to talk, they were cut off and were not allowed to talk. And in my administration, that will not happen. But to solve that, the city council members had to come together and obtain an ordinance to actually instill Robert's rules of a hearing or a council meeting. Those were already in place, so were never abided by until we had to actually instill those rules and make them into ordinance. Second of all, we have the fire department issue where a fire chief was hired, wasn't even approved by the city council. He was just hired, and we had no knowledge of it, and we learned more from the Kentucky Standard and the Nelson County Gazette than we do from our own mayor. And we hear it from the constituents out on the streets. And no, it's not political rhetoric, it's just a thing that has come to light because we just can't take it anymore. And I think it gives a good light on that is you had one councilman that resigned from committees, you had another councilman that's not even running. And even in his own statement, he said there's too much turmoil. And I think that speaks for itself. Thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Absolutely, go ahead.
What Councilman Royalty doesn't understand is that in conducting a meeting, the mayor is in charge of the meeting. We don't let people come into a council meeting and just cause havoc in the council meeting. We have to have order. And there hasn't been anybody that came before the council meeting that chose that requested to be on the agenda that hadn't been on the agenda. There hadn't been any information. The issue about the fire chief, Councilman Roy wasn't on the council when we took that issue up, so he's not well informed on that. So he's misinformed on that. And no fire chief was hired. No fire chief was done without the approval of the council. I guess he may not understand that, but that's one of the positions that has to be approved by the council. So it's not my individual hiring. That's something that he's not well informed on.
Okay.
Well, again, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that. And according to the Standards article, he was hired by the mayor of Barstown. Now, what I do understand is on the agenda, it says on the number 3 slot of the agenda, it says recognize all groups and individuals. That has always been on there for the 12 years I've been on the council. It's always been there. And then it disappeared in the middle of some of the meetings. It was just completely gone. And groups of people have a right to be recognized. And that was on the agenda, and it didn't go that way until the issue with the handicap ramp in Henrytown. When that issue came up and the lady wanted to speak and was very boisterous about her opinion and actually caught Bill in a lie and called him out and called him a liar and caught him in that lie through a tape phone conversation, that's when the public was shut out.
All right, thank you all for your answers on that, and we'll go to the next question now. And once again, we'll have 3 minutes per candidates. And once again, for the audience here and for those at home, we are giving 1 minute rebuttals per candidate per question as well. And I'll ask this one. It'll go to Mr. Royalty first. And here it is. Nelson County enacted its Human Rights Ordinance in 1966 and updated it again in 1986 to include barring discrimination based on gender and age. Earlier this year, the Bardstown-Nelson County Commission on Human Rights proposed a draft update to the county's laws expanding that protection to the LGBT community, but no action has yet been taken. Do you support expanding protection against discrimination based on sexual orientation?
The thing that concerns me the most is when you take any certain group, whether it be the gay and lesbians, or it be a motorcycle gang, or it be the Bardstown Money Gang, if you want to put those, if those want to be in the Human Rights Commission and then have their own little separate agenda for discrimination, I think is wrong. It opens a Pandora's box to certain groups to have their own special agenda. What I do believe, if that is done, that erodes the Martin Luther King's 1964 Civil Rights Act, where that is everybody is protected from discrimination. I just don't think you can single out any certain group. I think that would be wrong, and it's not good for the city of Bardstown.
All right, Mr. Shekels?
Well, the Human Rights Commission, when they brought this issue before when they first called me and asked to be on the agenda to bring this issue before the city council, I agreed. Then they withdrew their request to be on our agenda and thought it would be better if they went before the county judge and the physical court to bring this issue about LGBT rights and their issues. The one thing that they wanted to amend our current ordinance, and the reason I think that physical court kind of backed off of it, is what they were putting in their language in there about perceived discrimination. And as we all know, for each individual, what perceived discrimination is, it could be very, very vague. So they have yet to bring it back before physical court, and when they do, and I hope it gets addressed, then we'll address that issue at the time. But the perceived discrimination issue was the main thing that caused the problem.
Okay, back to Mr. Royalty.
What I'd like to know, I didn't, and maybe Bill can clarify it, but did you go to Louisville and sign that with Greg Fisher?
No, I didn't.
You weren't? Okay. I thought you were down there with him on that issue. So.
No, you were mistaken again.
All right, we'll go to the next question, and we'll have Mr. Shekels answer this one first, and we'll go to Forest Berkshire.
Mayor Shekels. There have been some people who say Bardstown has a gang problem. Do you believe so, or do you think some people are overstating the problem, especially in the wake of Officer Jason Ellis's murder?
Well, the so-called issues with the gang and the Ellis murder was all kind of came together at the same time. It caused uneasiness among the whole community. The Ellis murder, number one, was such a heinous crime that it really shook up the whole community. The police officers, our general public, me, and everything. And then there was the issues with the so-called money gang that was involved with some youngsters that were pretty much young of age. But as I told our law enforcement community, as I told our prosecutors, as I told our Commonwealth attorney, that as long as I was mayor of this community, that we were not going to tolerate any such action such as this. If these young people, or any of the people, wanted to consider themselves a gang, then we were going to promote legislation or an ordinance to discourage that. And that is what the Commonwealth attorney did. The so-called people that wanted to be gang members, those issues were addressed, those issues were taken care of. And if you notice, you haven't heard much out of the money gang since the last year or so, because not on my watch, I wasn't going to tolerate it. We're not going to have anybody be intimidated in this community because a bunch of young people that think they want to be something that they're really not. So we addressed that issue. It's been taken care of, and I don't think you hear much out of the gangs.
All right, and now an answer from Mr. Royalty.
Bill's mistaken again. His lack of police experience and my knowledge of police experience in talking with individuals and the citizens, he should know that any large group of people that want to call themselves a gang, he needs to go and ask that victim at Huddle House. He needs to go and ask that victims that were at the party, and he should know very closely, because it hit close to home with him. So he should know all about the gang activity and who's in it and what was going on. You can't turn a blind eye to it. You can't say we don't have the problem. That's like saying Nelson County doesn't have a drug problem. That's ridiculous. We do, and it takes a mayor that has the knowledge and the ability to stand up and say, it's not gonna happen. And just to sit up here and say that it's not gonna happen on my watch, well, it did. And it happened twice, and it's gonna happen again, and you can see it all over YouTube. It's gonna happen. And it did happen on his watch. Thank you.
Well, like you said, there was a lot of things that happened on my watch, but all the issues that have happened on my watch, like I said before, we've addressed them or we're in the process of addressing them. And sure enough, we had an issue with Officer Ellis. That was a hideous murder. We had an issue with the Netherland group family out there. That was on my watch. We had an issue with some so-called gang members, with some incidents in the county and in the city. But as I said before, those issues have been addressed. And if you all read the Kentucky Standard or PLG or Nelson County Gazette, you're well aware of what's happening. So sure, we have problems. We have people problems, we have drug problems, but we're in a very progressive community. We're a growing community, and as we grow, we're going to have growing pains, and we address those as they come about. I'm not sticking my head in the sand and saying we don't have issues we have to address, but as they come about, we do address them, and some of them are not popular, but it's done.
All right, we'll move on to the next question now, and we'll go to Mr. Royalty first for the answer, and we'll have Mr. Randy Patrick ask it.
Mr. Royalty, Nelson County has a somewhat strict ethics ordinance, which has become an issue in this election season with regard to the coroner's race, particularly an issue involving nepotism. But Bardstown and the other cities are also covered by this same law. Do you feel that the ethics ordinance is too strict? Is it adequate? Does it need to be revised in any way?
I would like to look at it and actually probably revise it, because even at City Hall, there, that's one thing I would not do is hire family members. I think it has a problem. That even goes for kin people, and from my understanding, I think Bill has hired several of his family members, and I don't like that. It's not an ethics violation, because they're like cousins or whatever, but I don't think you should hire family members. It opens the door for things to improperly happen. And yes, I think it should be probably tightened.
All right, and an answer from Mr. Shekels.
Well, I think the ethics commission that we have in place in Nelson County is very thorough. You all reported on it very thoroughly, and they've got some good people on the ethics board, and I think they follow the proper procedures, and they've done a good job.
All right, so we'll go on to the next question now, and we'll have Mr. Shekels answer this one first, and I'll ask it. Bardstown City Council last month terminated longstanding agreements with the county for funding 911 dispatch in the Parks and Rec Department. The city has stated it is interested in negotiating terms that are more equitable to the city. Councilmen have called it double taxation because city residents pay their county fees plus their city fees, whereas county residents only pay the county fees. How do you respond to the city council's claim of double taxation? What do you feel is fair to both the city and the county residents?
Well, that was a council decision as we were looking over the budgets and looking for funding mechanisms that we needed to fund our general fund. That was one of the issues that where money that's coming out of the general fund goes towards 911 fees and also recreational activities also, which the city is burdened with the majority of the recreation expenses, and they're also paying extra money out of the general fund to take care of 911 fees. We've discussed this at length on several occasions in the past. It basically came up because, as I was bringing before the council, if they don't want to raise taxes, if they don't want to have an insurance tax, if we want to keep a low occupational fee, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But when you choose to fund extra issues in our street department, when you agree to fund a fully authorized police department, when you fund a fully authorized fire department, then the issues of funding come about. When you want to have nice recreation facilities, the issues of funding come about out of our general fund. And our general fund is mainly funded through taxes and of this nature, and we've been subsidizing out of our utility fund, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to cover expenses through there. But as we continue to grow and our community gets bigger and people expect more services, then there's going to come a time when we want to continually drain our utility funds to supplement our general fund. Our general fund need to be supplemented with general fund activity. So that was one way that the council figured that if they didn't put so much money into 911 and double tax the people, then that money that was being generated to pay 911 and recreation, they could use that to supplement the general fund to offset some of the expenses that we've been having, like the expenses that we have no control over, like retirements of our hazardous duty workers and things like that, which continue to increase because we have no control over, set up by the CERS pension fund. So as they continue to grow, as we continue to get bigger, there have to be alternate ways to fund our general fund. If the council continues not want to take the 4% automatic or raise any kind of taxes, then we have to look for alternate means of supplementing our general fund.
All right, Mr. Royalty, your thoughts?
Everyone hold their seats because I'm going to agree with Bill on this. So I agree with Bill on this. It was a good thing. The only thing is I question is why did we not do this years ago and look at this interlocal agreement? I'd even like to go back and look at the interlocal agreement with planning and zoning. I think the magistrates would like to do that also. Now, you talk about funding of the general fund. The only way to fund the general fund is either through what we've done here with the interlocal agreements, and as Bill had mentioned, you have taxes, and he's mentioned the occupational tax. He mentioned raising the 4% tax, and he also wants to look at insurance tax. And right now, the people are taxed to death. They can't stand it. I think what we have to have is responsibility to control the revenue. The budget is set at 45 million plus. It has grown in excess of over $6 million in the last 4 years. Yes, we've had growth, but you have to use the revenue within the budget, and that's what we need to look at. The economic standard right now is not good for everyone, and people can't keep paying taxes. Taxes is not the solution to the problem. The answer to the problem is how you use the funds. You have to be responsible.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And that's exactly what I just said a few minutes ago. That I don't like paying taxes more than anybody else. But I just want to explain to the constituency out there how our general fund revenues are generated. Now, true enough, but when the council goes and votes to increase departments and things that cause a general fund increase, then we have to address those issues also. I don't want an insurance tax. I don't want to raise the occupational license fee. The 4%, that's a given. If there is anything such as a fair tax, that's probably the fairest you're ever going to get locally. But unfortunately, our expenses continue to rise, and they're just pass-throughs mostly. So sure the budget has increased in the last 5 years, but any of y'all out there, any thinking person out there knows that anything that you pay today does not cost the same as it did 5 years ago. So, and we're a growing community. So take all those things into consideration.
All right. Thank you all. And we'll move on to the next question now, and it will be asked by Kentucky Standard Editor Forrest Berkshire.
You've both already touched on this, but we're going to delve into this a little deeper. You know, Bardstown City Council, you know, it claims double taxation on the 911 dispatching and the recreation, but there's a lot of county residents who say that they're being taxed without representation when the money used, the profits generated by the utilities are then used to balance the general fund. My question to you is, you know, do you have a plan to balance the general fund and to separate the utilities from the utility profits from the general fund and have them stand on their own? And what would you do as far as if the utilities are making extra revenue? What do you do with that revenue? Do you give it back in rate decreases, which are usually pretty unheard of, or what would you use that revenue for?
I'll answer that question. The
Who was the question directed to?
They would go to Mr. Royalty first, actually.
Go ahead.
Well, the utilities, you have the electric and you have the cable and the water and the sewer and the garbage. All those are revenue generating departments, okay? And yes, they should stand alone, okay? Now, as far as some feel that they're being taxed without representation, I agree, but I think that's going to be more on the state level. You have small businesses in town, which those people may live outside in the county, but they still have to pay they pay the city taxes, and they pay city school taxes and also the county school taxes. And they complain to me all the time, but we can't vote for you because we don't live in the city. And I think that's a state issue. Then they should contact their state representative, David Floyd, and see if they can resolve that issue. But yes, I think each individual department should be able to stand on their own, but still in the general fund, you have the police department that will not ever be revenue generating. They cost money. You have the fire department that is not revenue generating, but they're doing things now that I think that is a good step in the right direction. One is they're going to start billing people that are out of town. You know, if there's a wreck or if there's outside the city limits, if there's a wreck and they have to respond, they're going to bill the insurance companies. And I've talked somewhat with the fire department on that, and it's something that's in the works, and hopefully it'll be brought to the city council. But it's still not a revenue generating utility or a department.
All right, Mr. Shekels.
Well, the two divisions are separate, the general fund and the utility fund. But as a leader, you have to look not just for today, but you have to look down the road. We've been very fortunate, one of the few cities in the state that has our own utility department, and which is a revenue generating source, and it has been for years. When we were a small community of 7,500 people and we weren't annexing, we didn't have outline subdivision, and we didn't have a major cost of infrastructure, we were in great shape. But looking down the road, I don't want to take all the money that profits generated from the utility department and put them over in the general fund, because there's going to come a day, there's going to be other issues that need to be addressed as a growing community that we are. So to take we could take the profits from the utility fund and complement and supplement all the issues in the general fund, but that's not good government. That's not good business. So true enough, every department needs to stand on their own. If the council chooses not to take the low road out, and then we'll just have to make sure that we tighten our budget. May have to lay some police officers off, may have to lay some fire people off, but people want services. They want to be protected. So as we've been a growing community, we've been fortunate enough to provide the services that people want and need and not put a major strain on our constituents. I hope we can continue to do that, but you know, some things that we have no control over, the expenses, the cost of fuel, the cost of electricity, the cost of retirements, the cost of pension funding, the cost of affiliate rates on cables. These things are services that people have come to want and need and expect. So true enough, if these issues come about, we'll have to tighten the budget somewhere, or we'll have to cut service, or we'll have to do some necessary things, means to make it work if that's what the people want.
All right, Mr. Royalty, rebuttal.
We have, you know, let me touch on the electric and the cable and the internet. We have those utilities, and I get calls all the time about why are you raising my rates and raising my internet, raising my television program, and when those affiliates, when we go into contract and we have to renegotiate that contract with these affiliates, that is a price that we negotiate, and that price is usually passed on to the consumer. So really, when you get the increase, it's really not the city raising those, it's the affiliates that's doing it. When we buy our electric and it increases, we pass that increase on to the customers. Because the city just can't absorb all the increases, and the people that have to pay for that is the customers.
All right, so we'll move on to the next question, and to have that, we'll have Mr. Randy Patrick.
And this question is for Mayor Shekels. Okay. Mayor, you've mentioned a few times tonight that that Bardstown is a growing community. Of course, there's two ways for a community to grow. One is through population increase within the city limits, and the other way is by expanding those city limits into the unincorporated area of the county. Do you think that the city should annex more of Nelson County, and why or why not?
Well, it's basically arithmetic, Randy. If we put pencils to it, there's areas outside the city limits right now that we can annex tomorrow, and it wouldn't be an issue with it. We could annex the Maywood area, we could annex Woodlawn Springs, we can annex several areas like this. But when you put a pencil and paper to it, it's not really cost effective. People that live inside the city have cheaper utility rates. When we expand, we have to take care of it. Now we have to take care of the streets. Now we have to take care of garbage. Now we have to take care of bulky item pickup. You know, and when you put a pencil to it, it's really not always cost effective. So as an educated leader, an experienced leader, and when you put the numbers together, if we don't want to put an added burden on our current taxpayers, then some things are not, even though they seem like it'd be the right thing to do, it's not always cost effective. And that's the reason that we haven't annexed some of the other areas in the area, in the general area that a lot of people expect us to. There may become a time when the numbers balance out, but at this particular stage in the game, the numbers don't balance to be cost effective for the city.
All right, Mr. Royalty.
Well, as everyone knows, years and years ago, there was a battle between the city and the Salt River RECC, and that was over the rights to electric boundaries. And basically, I think the way that I understand that is that RECC won that battle. So we're kind of constrained on our growth on our electric boundaries. We can only grow within the city. So the people that live, he used in Maywood, for example, or Woodlawn Springs, those are Salt River, I think, and KU. So those people will pay their electric to them. Now, as far as annexation, I'd love to see the numbers, but that's something that we've never gotten to actually see a good comparison of numbers. I've done some number checking on myself on property evaluation, but that's something I'd like to see and see the numbers. But again, with growth like that is going to come a strain on our system. You have the police, the fire department's already covers those areas because you have the joint Nelson County, Bardstown Nelson County Fire Department, so it's covered. And I think then you're going to have a garbage issue which we've had a battle with the county over garbage districts or garbage areas. So that's something that we'd have to look at, and I think that is a decision that the new council and the new mayor should make. And ultimately, again, that would be up to the council's decision.
All right, thank you. And we'll move on to the next question. We'll have Mr. Royalty answer this one first, and I'll ask this one. We had a similar question last night to the Bardstown City Council, and we'll ask you all a very similar one to that. Bardstown has grown significantly over the last couple of decades and will likely continue to do so. One reason people move here is its small town character and historic beauty. What can you do as mayor to ensure Bardstown keeps the characteristics that make it such a great place to live while accommodating economic growth?
Well, I think if you look at the downtown Bardstown, and it does draw a lot of tourists here, and it draws them back time and time again. And Bardstown makes money out of that, and you have the small town businesses that make money out of it. But the problem that we have the historic review board, and I think it's not a problem because it is needed. But what I would like to see is to streamline those regs and streamline the time factor that it takes to get things approved to do. And I think you need to be more realistic and listen to the small town business downtown. And one example is the small little blue flags. I think that that's not one problem at all. And talking to tourists downtown, it actually points them in the direction of those stores because not all stores are open on the weekends or on Sundays. And I think it's a great tool. To say that that's bad for historic downtown Bardstown, I don't think so. And that's what helps those downtown businesses. So, and it's a charming town. We need to keep it that way. And I think it's, but I would like to see the timeline of what it takes to do it and for the historic review board to actually work with the homeowners and the businesses. And if you look downtown, I think there's maybe 5, maybe 6 houses that are up for sale. And some are it's just too expensive. It takes too long to do it. It's too expensive the way they want it done. And I think we have to have some common sense and to look at it because there's a lot of selling going on on the main street of Bardstown.
All right, thank you. Mr. Shekels.
Yeah, we definitely need to keep our historic district intact. As Councilman Royalty said, we do have a major influx of tourism year-round. And when tourists come to our community, they don't go to the suburbs or Walmarts or our neighborhood district. They want to come and see what we have downtown. I had the fortune this morning to listen to our entrepreneur, the developer that explained to us a lot of the ways that we can brand our small towns, downtowns especially, and he had a lot of good ideas that I'd like to bring back and forth to our planning and zoning director and our historical review board. Yes, we need to keep that small town charm because that's another asset that we have that so many other communities don't have. And yet, we still need to be aggressive in our recruitment of industry that to go in our outlying areas, but our downtown needs to stay intact. We need to reserve our historical district because that's one of the things that's put Bardstown on the map, and that's one of the things that will continue to keep Bardstown on the map. As I hear when I travel the state and talk to so many people that make their way to Bardstown for different events, for different festivals, and how many of these people have moved here or their family members have moved here just because of our historic charm. And in the historical district, properties in the historical district, you're done properly, their value is more than that same particular historic home in the historical district is worth more money if you put it out outside the historical district. So that's another tax base generating for our city also. So yes, we need to keep our historical district intact and promote it every opportunity that we get.
All right, Mr. Royalty, rebuttal.
What I'd like to add to that is that we cannot also forget we got hometown small businesses here that are hometown people. And I think sometimes as a city government, we have overlooked those people because they're employers too. And I'll use a restaurant that I had visited and talked to, employs over 50, 60 people. And he doesn't feel that he gets the breaks as a business and a taxpayer year-round as some other people do. And I'd like to look and venture into an idea that we can actually work with small business to actually help them, to keep them to stay in business. And when they open a new business, a small business, We need to work with those people. Those are the roots. Those are our baseline people because they are the hometown people. And I think that's where I like to look at. We got to look at the charming part of the historic part for the tourists, but we also got to help hometown.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Mr. Shekels for the answer. To answer this one first, and to ask the question is Forest Berkshire.
I'm going to follow up a little bit on the most recent discussion here. The historic district has made Bardstown famous, and a lot of out-of-town people, when they think of Bardstown, they think of the historic district. But that has left some residents outside of the historic district feeling as if they don't get as much attention. What could be done by the mayor's office or the city to make all residents feel as if their concerns are equally important?
That's a good question, and like I said before, the historical district is a historic district. And like I said before, when people come to visit our communities, they don't go to Walmart or Kroger. They want to go and see what we got downtown. But all the other businesses in the area, we have our zoning regulations, which we're in the process now of revamping. Our sign ordinances, we're in the process of revamping. But one of the reasons that with all businesses that we have here in the community now, we have been a fairly successful community because of the ordinances that we have. Because our town looks good. Our town is clean. Our signs are not all over the place. They're regulated within and without the historic district. As we have issues that come up from time to time, then we look at those and we try to revamp them so where everyone can be on a fair playing field. You've been seeing a lot of issues in the paper recently about our sign ordinance and temporary signs and how they need to be tweaked. But we're in the process of doing that. This is another example of issues that we think our community needs to be addressed, and we have been addressed on the part of the mayor's office and the city council. So when these issues come up, because we want to be fair to all people, all businesses, then if there's enough interest in those type of situations that need to be addressed, then we'll address them. And we're still going to be regulated. Maybe some less, maybe some more. But the reason we are regulated is the reason that we are the type of community that we are. So that's why we've done that 20 years ago to make this a most beautiful small town, and we get compliments on it every single day.
All right, a response from Mr. Royalty.
Well, I think there are different communities that feel like that they are the left out stepchild and they don't get what the downtown has gotten. And you take the streetscape program, which was total cost of the project was probably around $3.5 million, $3.3 million, $3.5 million. Now, if you take that and you have the neighborhood, which has been talked about recently, you take Maple Hill. Maple Hill has over 20, 30 businesses. They have the post office out there, and they've been neglected. And they can't even get street lights out there, like on the east side, which is going from the courthouse toward McDonald's. They can't get the same street lights. And that Maple Hill 62 West, that is the gateway from into our city. And there's not even a welcome to Bardstown out there. And that's a gateway to the city of Bardstown from these corporations that fly in on private jets that we have there. It's a gateway, and it's one of the, I think it's a neglected area, and it needs to be revamped. Yes, they're doing the best that they can do. Yes, they have problems and issues, and I think it needs to be done. It needs to be taken care of, and the mayor's office can do that, and along with the city council, it has to be a group effort to do that. So that's one of the issues that needs to be looked at. You have another issue is Henrytown. Henrytown has been promised sidewalks for 20, 30 years. In some locations they have it, but some they don't. And you find people walking on the street, and I think it's with small children. And that you have smaller families that are moving back into the Henrytown, back into the Maple Hill area, and you have those people that are walking kids on streets. Now, does it cost money? Absolutely. But if we can get grants, you have a transportation grant. This is for the streetscape project, over $600,000. You have Republican Guthrie helped with a $100,000 grant, and we locally matched that with $660,000. So why can't we get grants and focus on Maple Hill and Henrytown to get those neighborhoods back to where they need to be?
All right, we've come to the last question of the night before we'll have closing statements. And to ask this one, it'll be Randy Patrick, and Mr. Royalty, you'll answer this one first.
Mr. Royalty, until recently, the city had a passive recycling program. People could put items in bins that were placed around town, but the problem was they were putting things in there like household garbage and dead animals, or just the wrong kinds of plastics. So now you have an agreement with Guthrie Opportunity Center and the county to where you have a manned recycling center. It may not be convenient for some people because it's not open in the evening or on Saturdays anymore. But why not just take the next step and go to curbside recycling, as a lot of towns, Bardstown size, have done?
Well, good thing that you asked that, because since I've been sitting on the city council, starting with Mayor Dixie Hibbs, Larry Green and I have discussed that. And I've been to larger cities. I've been to Nashville. I've been to North Carolina. I've been to Indianapolis, and where they have curbside recycling. But what you got to ask yourself and ask the people is, do you want to do that? Because, and I'm in favor for it. I think you should do it. But there's going to be an added cost to that. So you got to have, and that's where when I would welcome a public forum to discuss it. But yes, I think you should have it. Now there's going to be, there's going to be an added cost to it because you're going to have a different kind of truck, and I've researched this in depth. And you're going to have a time schedule for this. And there's usually 3 bins that they can put plastics and paper and whatnot into it. So it's another added service which will be a cost to us. The Guthrie Center has been a godsend to us, the city of Bardstown, but I feel like the people aren't using it as much as they were when they had it downtown or in different areas, because people in general just don't want to travel that little extra 4 or 5 minutes to take it to the Guthrie Center. And some I've heard is complain that it's not really marked clearly. I've been out there. I think it's fine, but for the older people, I don't think it's marked clearly enough or identifies it good enough, and people get lost out there. But I think it's something definitely should be looked at and get the public's input, and if they agree to it, then we must do it.
All right, a response from Mr. Shekels.
The major reason we haven't done curbside recycling is the cost. The cost of curbside recycling. We did this recycling bin as a way to help the Guthrie Opportunity Center and some of the handicapped people that work there. It was good for the community because there's a lot of people here that do recycling. It was an opportunity for them to fund some of the Nelson County Industries payroll for the people that work there, to make them useful citizens, and they were something they were able to do. Since moving it to the Guthrie Opportunity Center, it's been a godsend for a lot of people. It's now the recycling is cleaner. It's inside. For many of the residents that do utilize this curbside, this recycling, they can drive their vehicles in. We have people there to help them, and actually, the recycling has increased. I monitor that 2 or 3 times a month. I go in and check with the staff and see how they're doing. They've added more staff from the Nelson County Industries to participate. All the residents that I know that use it on a regular basis, they're tickled to death. They're out of the elements, especially elder people. And once they know where it is and they get in the habit of taking them there, they don't have a problem with it. Matter of fact, I've got several letters thanking us for doing that. So it's worked. The reason we haven't done it citywide is the cost. It's just another major burden that we put on the taxpayers. But the people that do recycle, that want to recycle, they do recycle. And that's where we are.
All right, Mr. Royalty, rebuttal.
If I can expand and add to that is, and I agree, it would be a extra burden, but you have to also look, is like our water resource. You know, the study that was done was maybe, I said maybe till 2040 that the water may be sufficient, but it's just a study, and and I just don't think it's that accurate. And then you look at the a landfill. How much can you put in the landfill before you have to go somewhere else? You already have other places, I think, dump in our landfill from other counties. So, you know, we can't look at just right now. We have to look at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. We have to take care of our kids and grandkids and all that. We have to look at that. And we just can't say, oh, well, it's good for right now. The landfill is good. Some time or another, that's going to come to an end, and we have to make we have to be prepared for that. And I think recycling is a great start.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And we'll go now to closing statements, and we'll have 2 minutes each on closing statements. We'll have Mr. Royalty. You'll give your closing statements first, and Mr. Shekels, yours last. So once again, 2 minutes for closing statements.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I'm here to serve as mayor in the capacity of full time. I'm talking not just be there and be there, have access to me 24/7 by phone. I'm going to be in that office the whole time. I'm not going to presume that the job is going to be easy. That's where I'm going to have and rely on a good council. You're not going to hear me say I, or me. You're going to hear me say we as a council, we together are going to make these decisions that's going to count. I don't think the mayor should ever put his position into where he makes that sole decision solely upon himself. Now, occasionally there has been. In the past, mayor that I worked under even disciplined a employee. Mayor Heaton brought the council in and discussed it. That is what I'm talking about, discussion with your city council members. We have to keep a plan. We have to have a plan to keep the city moving forward, to maintaining and improving the programs. We have to have the programs for like Maple Hill, Henrytown. I will always have an open door policy, and I will be a true, transparent government. And you'll always know where I am, and you'll always know where I stand, and I've always said that, and I make no bones about it. You may not like what I got to say or where I stand, but please tell me what you have to say and where you stand, and then let's come to an agreement of where we need to go from point A to point B. Last and very least is life is all about choices. And on November the 4th, you need to make the right choice. Vote for John Royalty for Bardstown City Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now we'll go to 2-minute closing from Mr. Shekels.
Councilman Royalty made the statement that he's going to be a full-time mayor. That sounds good. But as we all know, the mayor's a 24/7 job, and that's what we've been doing for the past 4 years. I don't need to be at City Hall 8 hours a day. My job is not my job is to manage people. We have competent staff to do the jobs that need to be done. I'm not gonna hang an electrical wire or install a cable or put out a fire. That's what we have competent staff to do. That's why we work together as a unit to keep the city moving forward the way that it has. And my door is always open. Like I said, if there's any issues that the councilmen see that needs to be done among the city, then all they have to do is call our office. If we don't get the situation taken care of, then we're in the process of taking care of it. And I challenge any council member to discount it otherwise. But 4 years ago, we took on the challenge to become mayor of the city of Bardstown as a way of giving back to the people that have helped us, supported us in many of our business and personal endeavors. Many of you knew me from my day-to-day dealings, but I'm sure there were some doubts as what kind of leader I would be for your city. Well, after 4 years in the position of mayor, I hope I've demonstrated to you that I have the qualities and the vision to continue to move our city forward in a progressive manner and yet still help keep our small town charm. My knowledge of the many aspects of our community, my experience as 12 years as a city councilman and now 4 years as your mayor, along with our common sense approach to leadership and management, has proven to be a positive force in making our city a great place to live, work, and play. I've had to make some tough decisions, true enough, although not always popular, were made but with the assistance of our city council members, were always made in the best interest of the city and its constituents. So 4 years later, I ask for your vote and your continued support as we take on the challenge of continuing to bring better government to the people of this great city. Thank you very much for having us here this evening, and thank the audience in attendance for being here to support both candidates.
All right, thank you, and thank you both again, Mr. Shekels and Mr. Royalty, for joining us here tonight for our live TV debates. And right now, I'll ask the audience to join in showing our appreciation to the candidates for being here. And that will do it for the debates for Bardstown Mayor here on PLG TV. We'll have several reshowings of this particular debate this coming weekend. The first reshowing will be this Saturday, October the 11th at 2:30 p.m. And the second reshowing will be this Sunday, October the 12th at the same time.